Thank you for listening today on Revealing Wholeness, sponsored by Infinity Whole Health. Check out our website at infinityWholeHealth.com, where we are revealing the eternal in each individual, the infinite in the individual. The creativity is made manifest. Limitation is let go. Now, here's your host, Dr. Troy Munson.
Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Troy Munson. And who hasn't heard of spike proteins, for crying in the night? I mean, everybody is worried that some spike protein is going to jump on them and wrestle them on the ground and kill them. It's crazy these days. And so as we've gone through this idea of hype, I'm hoping for most people is just decreasing overall. But let's just talk about how powerful the human body is and how its abilities to handle these spike proteins, which have been around forever. It's not like this is something brand spanking new. So why isn't the whole population of the earth dead thousands of years ago? Well, because we're amazing, if I can at least say that much. And so the human body knows what to do. And so here's one article. This is fascinating. This is off of Nutrition and Healing in July of 2008. And so they did a study on selenium and taking it either naturally or taking it synthetically or not at all. What happened? And now before I jump into there, as we have done selenium for so many years, but people don't go to a tree, a selenium. I grew a selenium tree in my backyard. I go out there and I take a pill every day. No, we don't do that. So what is selenium and where does it come from? A couple facts about selenium that I've always found fascinating is that when they've done selenium in so many trials, it fixes so much stuff. It's crazy. And I almost hesitate to tell you selenium does that because people will go out and just buy selenium. That is not what I'm going to recommend that you do, by the way. Selenium is one mineral component of an incredibly important and very complex biologic structure called, and I'll let you guess, you can have a moment, it's a vitamin. And for those of you who listen to me enough, know that it's vitamin E. Vitamin E selenium is the core of the vitamin E complex. Now, vitamin E itself, when we find it in nature, is more than 1,000 things that make up the entire complex of vitamin E. Now, most of us, if we never heard this before, we would have been led to believe that vitamin E is mixed tocopherols. Hey, it's D-alpha tocopherol, that's vitamin E. No, that's a preservative. And that's one component of the entire complex of vitamin E, and it's not even an important component. Now, vitamin E of itself, all those components are very unstable. The reactive substances, they go in the body and they do things. Well, in order to keep them stable, they need a good preservative. And since most of it is fat soluble, it's mixed tocopherols. You can go to a lab and make the preservative D-alpha tocopherol. But in nature does it with other tocopherols and surrounds the entire complex of vitamin E plus the selenium, all these phytonutrients that make up vitamin E what it is, and now it works incredibly well. So we would prefer that you would not run out and think, I need selenium. That you would actually step back for a moment and say, where then is vitamin E in my food? Excellent question. That's where we would like you to start moving towards when you start thinking about, hey, if I'm going to go get a supplement, yeah, it should be definitely food-based, and that you would start shying away from synthetic, singled, fractionated vitamins. So let's move on with this article. So in New Zealand, they conducted a study. They had adults consume 2 Brazil nuts. And they had another group, this was for 12 weeks, and they had another group consume 100 micrograms. I mean, that's a tiny, tiny amount of selenium. 100 micrograms of selenium daily. And then they had a placebo group. Now, the plasma selenium levels increased 64% beyond the other 2 groups. This is the Brazil nut group. Now, we would think the group that took the 100 micrograms of selenium should have outperformed the 2 Brazil nuts because there's only like 55 micrograms of selenium in 2 Brazil nuts. But that's all they did, was about 55 micrograms of selenium in those 2 Brazil nuts. Well, the group that was taking the 100 micrograms didn't even produce. The placebo group had even a 7% increase for some unknown weird reason. And so this selenium was so much more bioavailable in the Brazil nuts that the body absorbed it in a much greater amount. So here your body is used to seeing foods all the time, has never experienced some company producing a single selenium product. And so every time that it saw selenium in nature, it saw these thousands of things, phytonutrients, with the selenium and used it correctly. It understood how it was being delivered. So when you get it from food, it's always going to be way more superior than getting it in a supplement. Now let's say that instead of, well, okay, then if 100 micrograms in a pill didn't do it, then I'm going to up it to 200 micrograms. Okay, I suppose you could, and you would increase selenium levels highly. But the problem is that your body still is going to have the phytonutrients that it was supposed to come with in nature in order to use it correctly. Now, it's awesome that selenium itself helps to make glutathione. And we need glutathione because it is an important and impressive substance in the human body for the immune system. And so if we look at why humans don't produce vitamin C like monkeys do, or at least gorillas do, they can make this stuff in their bodies. Why don't we? We should make vitamin C in our body. Well, the reason that we don't make vitamin C in our body and other mammals do or can is that we do something 50 times more potent and better. We make glutathione. It's way better than vitamin C. And so at this point, I want you to understand why having natural components in your food and eating good foods naturally gives you immune boosting effects, because your body knows what to do with it all. It's been designed quite well. It doesn't really need a whole lot of assistance. It knows what to do. It just needs the replacement parts. And if you're taking synthetic parts, it's not so good. So we want you to have the real replacement parts, and that's why we go after things like Brazil nut. Now, I found it fascinating that the selenium group, selenium, just to give you an indication, can be toxic in high doses. So the Brazil nut group didn't ever run the risk of toxicity. Their body kept it in good quantities. Now, you give selenium in its natural state to most cancer patients, and the stats that I've read is like 29% to up to 33% of all cancers immediately go into remission, all across the board. And so I know there's other components that are important here. Let's just say somebody happens to have these other components, so now they add this vital vitamin E in the form of selenium to their diet, and all of a sudden their cancer immediately goes away. I could totally see that. Other people that are missing multiple components, yes, they're getting selenium, and their cancers aren't necessarily going away. That would make sense to me. So as we look at something like cancer, this idea of a body running out of control, okay, well, it's interesting that viruses are associated with cancers. And so, okay, well, if I'm going to help viral stuff, then I'm naturally going to help cancer stuff. And so we're going to get there. So these articles that I've read, even just perusing a little bit on vitamin E, it talks about even the Ebola virus is affected by selenium, and how these spike proteins, this selenium literally denatures spike proteins. It helps the body break them down. It produces enzymes and combines to do that. And so that's why we want in your diet these high things. So what did I do with folks that came in that had infections from way back in practice before ever there was any COVID? I did things like wheat germ oil. Wheat germ oil is a phenomenal source of the whole entire E complex. The problem is that it has to be in a caplet, because if it's in a bottle, it's very, very oxygen sensitive. It literally will be oxidized in about 36 hours once you crack the cap on that bottle of wheat germ oil, if that's how you're getting it. So you either better drink a lot of it or you might as well buy a bottle every 2 days, because that's what you're going to have to do. So it's much easier to get it in its more natural form in a caplet, and that's how we usually deliver it. Now next, I want to talk about how zinc plays in all this. Zinc and selenium have gotten so much press lately, and they both do help to denature these spike proteins. We can tell that they do it, but what zinc does more than anything is it tends to run our immune system. And zinc tends to be a gateway mineral, meaning that when we have enough zinc in the system, it tends to pull a lot of other minerals into the system, especially calcium, which is a huge component of our immune system function. So we start helping this zinc pull in. I'll have people that, hey, I got to take zinc. Well, then you're definitely going to want to make sure you do it in an all-natural way, because zinc is very dependent on B6. And a natural B6, not a synthetic B6, because you can really overdo B6 quite quickly and become toxic. So please don't do that. If you have questions and concerns about that specifically, please contact me. But zinc is an amazing little product. It is vital for skin. So those of you out there that have skin conditions, you will want to be on some natural zinc. And liver is one of the highest forms of zinc on the planet. Most of you are not going to run out and start eating liver, but some of you will. You don't need a lot of it. You can get it and put it in things, chop it up really fine. It's wonderful to do. It's awesome. You can do a zinc lotion, but it's never going to absorb like the natural stuff, because you do need components to absorb the zinc well. And when you do it really, really well, man, does it help. It helps repair RNA. It helps repair, obviously, then DNA. It's for the airways. It's for your respiratory system. It also is binding to proteins that shouldn't be in your body, which can be important, like spike proteins. It also is excellent to improve the clearing of viral components as well. Now, I have talked about viruses in other podcasts, and I like to think that everything is supposed to work together and everything is purposeful. There's nothing that's not purposeful on this planet. And viruses are, I think there is some genetic communication with viruses, or in the form of viruses, to communicate what I'm going through in my environment. And so I'm putting those viral particles out there to basically communicate with other people and other animals and plants that this is what I've battled, this is how I dealt with it, this is how my body dealt with it, and you may want to know this information in order to keep yourself healthy. As we begin to have a healthier way of looking at the world around us instead of living in a constant state of fear, we have to start acknowledging that perhaps maybe, just maybe, I've been thinking about viruses wrong, that I've been thinking about bacteria wrongly, that I've been thinking about drugs, herbs, vitamins wrongly, that I've been thinking about everything maybe a little bit tainted. And so as I step back and I look at these things, I am actually more encouraged every single day that I learn about how amazing the human body is and how all these things work together in our environment. It's how we all communicate with each other. If somebody in another country is suffering something, wouldn't you want to know and have your body become strong to it? And that's how the viral particle works. Now, sometimes that virus comes in and say, hey, this is what you need to do to upgrade your system. And when it goes through that upgrade, it tends to release a lot of crap from your body. And maybe that sickness that you think you have is not a virus, but it's an upgrade and a cleaning. And I find that to be more true than not. So I've talked about that at lengths in other podcasts, so please catch those and begin that process. It's really quite elegant how the systems work. But just for those out there that are really wanting to get zinc in their diet and wanting to do it in a natural way, absolutely. Any kind of organ meats, liver. Some people love kidney pie and they still make it. I am just amazed. I think that's totally cool. There are things like shellfish have a fair amount of zinc, obviously from the sea. So you're going to find things even like seaweed is excellent for zinc. Most legumes, seeds and nuts, you're going to find things like the Brazil nuts. Dairy that is whole raw, you're going to find it there. Why would eggs have zinc in it? Well, does a chicken have skin? Does a chicken have an immune system? Yes, it has all these things. Well, it all has to be in those egg yolks. I mean, where's the chicken going to get it? So if you have chickens that are grown with good food and they forage and they do things like that, you're going to find high zinc content in those. Whole grains. We just talked about wheat germ oil having selenium. It also has a full complement of trace minerals, zinc being one. And so it's excellent. Some vegetables you'll find if you do a quick search, and I, for one, love this last one, dark chocolate. I love dark chocolate. I do dark chocolate daily. I don't know about you, I just like it. Do I overdo it? No, but I do love a good, organic, fair trade dark chocolate. It is just awesome. Put a little cherries in it, it's even better. Maybe even a little almonds. I think I'm gonna have to go have some now. So I hope that helps you, and I hope that kind of gives some certainty back to you and lessens the fear that, you know what, these spike proteins, maybe I don't have to be so afraid of that. Maybe there are some things that I could do in my diet that would certainly help. So we pointed the direction towards those things. If you have any questions, concerns, please shoot me an email. I'd love to converse with you and help you back into help if you've found yourself not doing so well. Until next time, I'm Dr. Troy Munson.
The information on this podcast from Dr. Troy Munson is meant to educate the listener on a variety of health issues. It is not meant to diagnose or treat any conditions.